Hello everyone, Man of Interest here, and it's time for the cool board. Today is a slightly special episode because we're going to cover the small ones. What are the small ones? You'll see pretty soon. I got 13 items today that we're going to argue about on the board of cool, the cool board. If you haven't watched the show before, very simple. Left to right, down to up for coolness factor. How is a board cool? What makes a board cool? Well, that's for you to decide and you to argue about. And that's what we're going to do here today. Let's start the cool board. So, for the cool board today, we have some unique items and something new. I'm just going to show everyone every item that we're going to be talking about today. Here are the small ones for today's roster. We have the Planck, the Zlant, the JD45, the Atreus, the Alpha 28, the Minivan, the Vortex Core, the Gherkin, TMO50, Magic Force 49, JD40 or Small Fry, Prime E, and the Pain 27. Which of these belong in WoW, cool, meh, and yikes? Let's find out here today. And let's start off with the classic, okay? You can't talk about 40% boards without talking about one of the most influential in the 40% sphere, the Planck. How cool is the Planck? Is the Planck even a cool board still? It's been out for quite a while, designed by Mr. Jack Huber. It has various revisions, various versions, even various people taking their own iterations on the Planck. So, how cool is the Planck? Has it aged well? Has it aged poorly? What do you all think? I'm honestly not sure how I feel about the Planck. I think it has holding power, but in terms of like coolness, I don't think it's that cool anymore, to be honest. It's definitely it's had its day, right? Its day in the spotlight. I think it was definitely passed. Like I'm pretty sure like starting like either last year or the year before, they just stopped keeping track of like what round we're on because they're like round 6 or 7 or some crazy thing, right? So how's the Planck? The Planck has an option for a 2U in the middle or 2 1Us. It has a high pro case option, low pro case option. You can go like no sidewalls above, just like a sandwich construction case option, which is how the OG ones used to be, because it was just 2 sheets of metal and some kind of like plastic divider in the middle, right? Okay, but how cool is the Planck? I think it's on the meh side of the line, right? If the middle of the board, right, things that are cooler and things that are not very cool, I think it's high meh, if I'm perfectly honest. But I don't know. What do you all think? I think high meh. And my argument for high meh is I recognize what it's done for the hobby and for the 40% sphere, because it probably wouldn't have grown and exploded as well as it had without the Planck, right? I think without the Planck, 40% wouldn't be where they are today, for better or worse. I think that influence saves it from mid-meh. That's what I think. But I want to hear why you guys think it should be high meh or mid-meh throughout the board. It needs Ash. You say it needs a revised bottom row. What do you mean by revised bottom row, Ash? I'm actually curious about that because I think the Planck's bottom row has been its bottom row for its entire existence. What about the relationship / influence its existence has on QMK? I think it's definitely there. I think QMK would have developed with or without the Planck, because I think the QMK project would have still, in some kind of form, existed, even if it was around or involving other boards. I think keyboards and programmability was a natural step in our hobby's progression when QMK was being developed. I don't think like, QMK only exists because of the Planck, or you couldn't have a QMK without the Planck. I think the QMK, or whatever people would have called it if it wasn't QMK, that's still that same idea of let's make something that everyone can use to program boards with, that still would have existed regardless. I don't give the Planck too much in that favor, I think. Actually, it would be nice with split space options that aren't 1U. Oh, you mean if you had like two U's in the middle? So it'd be a 1 1 1 2 2 1 1 1, yeah, like that. That'd be interesting, actually. Yeah. I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from. Yeah, 1 1 1 1 2 2 1 1 1 1. That adds up to 12. Correct. Okay, King Friday 17th. Low meh. History only goes so far. If it's still something being made by current standards, it's low. You know, King actually brings up a pretty good point, because like in the current landscape of what we can do with how we design boards, the Planck's design is very it's very simple. It's only change it's had basically is going from like just the sandwich case option to having like low or high pro sides from like either like a unibody bottom, right? I think it's like the newest thing that the Planck ever had going for it. Yeah, no, I see where King Friday is coming from. So maybe we should move it to mid-med then. I still put a good part of the history on it for its coolness. Okay, well, let's see where it could compare, okay? So we got some med boards, okay? QXP, Modern M0110, Honeyboard 60, Canoe Gen 2. Is it cooler than any of these boards? Right? Is it cooler than any of these in this general vicinity? Like, is it in the same tier as the QXP and Modern but lower? Or is it like in the Honeyboard tier and higher? Cooler than the Honeyboard. So, for those who may be newer, the tiers work in columns. So, like, for example, the QXP Modern M0110, Canoe Gen 2, and this KBD 67 MK2, they're all a tier higher than the Honeyboard 60. And within this tier, there's a higher sub-tier, the QXP and the Modern M0110, and the lower sub-tier, the Canoe Gen 2 and the KBD 67. So, is it like in this tier over here? Is it in this tier? Or is it down over here but maybe higher than the Honeyboard? That's what we gotta figure out. I have no clue what I'm listening to. But it's over. I'd say it's cooler than the Honeyboard. I don't think it's. I mean, the Canoe Gen 2 had like horrible PCB issues still. The Canoe Gen 2 wasn't supposed to exist because they said they'd only make the canoe and they'd, respect people's canoes by not making more canoes. And they're like, JK Gen 2. Less than M0110. Okay, so Max, it looks like you got a range. You got a range of between Honeyboard and M0110. You said more than canoe, so you think it should fit in right here. I can dig that. I think I could dig that. That's not a bad place for the Planck. After all it's been through, everything it's going through, everything it's been through. Yeah, that's fair for the Planck. Any other comments or refutations before the fat lady sings and it ends? If not, we're going to be heading over to the next topic. With Planck, you have very light 40% clout. That's true. The Planck is basically like the most basic bitch 40% of the 40%, which is it's the Planck, right? Okay, that's fair. I think that's appropriate for the cool board. Definitely appropriate. Very appropriate. Okay. Let's go to the next item. I'm gonna pick the next item. Let's go with the other big hitter in early 40%. The Minivan. How cool is the Minivan? Man. The Minivan. I think the worst thing about the Minivan are vocal fans of the minivan. And I think that actually drives down how cool the minivan is. Cool enough to cause arguments with everyone. True. The minivan is better than the people who use it. But I think the people who use it bring down how cool the minivan is. Because if I see someone with a minivan, I'm going to assume they're that kind of person who's very vocally annoying about a keycap that shouldn't have support, because until basically the upcoming run, it hasn't been ran for like 2-3 years until next month. I believe the minivan is running again under the key company. But I will agree with Ash. It's definitely a usable 40% layout. I mean, in 2016, I did review the minivan as an early review I did when I started reviewing keyboards. And it's definitely it's a very, very usable layout. But I think the minivan has not aged well because there's other 40% that have been designed since that can do what the minivan does without its like hindrance of using that weird backspace. So it was designed in 2015, and its design and mindset is still stuck there, I think. It's not cool. Is it yikes? Do the people who stand for the minivan, do they make it yikes? Really, that's what it comes down to, right? Because we're talking about the coolness of a board, and man, if I still see someone with a minivan, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think a minivan's cool anymore. I never really thought it was that cool to begin with, other than having a nifty layout for 40%. Yeah, it's like 70% yikes. The minivan can be the first yikes we got on the board. I think I might. Like, you guys would have to give me a reason to put it in meh compared to yikes, because I don't think there's a strong enough argument to move it to meh. Ash has a lot of derivatives that are kind of cool. All the derivatives are way cooler because they don't use a dumbass 1.75U backspace and that people keep asking for that they don't buy. It's been tried in the past and has failed, and they keep saying like, "Oh, bring it back, we'll buy it." They don't buy it. They just bitch about it. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of upset YouTube comments, I'm sure. It's going yikes. Well, for now, we're gonna put it as the anchor in the middle of the yikes because we don't have anything else in the yikes to balance it out yet, right? We can move it, but for now, it's gonna be our yikes anchor. Oh, you're referring to the derivatives that have the 1.75U BS? That's weird. I think that those are also all not the greatest. It would be hard to have anything worse than a minivan, so that's fair. Eamsburg, minivan support? What minivan support? So yeah, I think we're gonna anchor it in mid yikes. As we get more yikes, we can find out, what else goes in the yikes category. But no worries. Okay. Is anyone here gonna stand the minivan? I don't think so. If you're gonna stand the minivan, why? I don't think of my few viewers I have, anyone really enjoys the minivan. And for that, I'm proud of you guys. You won't stand it, but you think it should be higher than yikes. Why should it be higher than yikes? I don't think it should be higher than. It's not cool. The people, the drama, and the atmosphere around the minivan is like hostile and not cool. To me, hostile and not cool. Joke, please. come on, Madroke. Yeah, they did. They had the really custom car paint one that cost like $600 for a painted minivan. Could you imagine? But in terms of coolness, no, it wasn't 1K, Joe. No. I thought it was 600. No. No one's paying 1K for a painted minivan. No. Holy crap. Okay, hold on. I have painted minivan keyboard. I don't remember where it is. Oh, probably incomplete. GDs. I have no clue where the link would even be. I do remember it was quite expensive. I don't want to think it was 1K. Okay. Sorry, Zerp. You don't have a good enough argument. I don't think you have a good enough argument to lift minivan out of yikes. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. We'll see in a future episode when more people may defend it. I don't think so. Okay, let's go to our next topic, which is gonna be the next small boy we'll do today. You know what? Let's go with an OEM selection. Let's go with the Vortex Core. No, go with the Vortex Core. Vortex Core, made by Vortex, who does most famous for, if you're from my generation of keyboards, Poker 2. If you're from the generation after me, probably nothing. Because after the Poker 2, barely anyone bought the Poker 3, because by then there was already a huge amount of different 60% available. So layout-wise, what's I suppose? I wish the spacebars were symmetrical, but, you know. Poker 3 was so popular, it did not reach anywhere near, like, the Poker 2 diffusion in our hobby, where it was all about, you know, everyone getting a Poker 2 and swapping parts, right? Erase E spacebar. So one thing I do like is, you know, because the board is, you know, it's a complete board, right? It comes with keycaps. It's all completely built, right? I like all the sub legends for the colored sub legends for the FN1 and FN, and you got the PN as well. It wasn't programmable, but people did make aftermarket PCBs for it. So definitely had somewhat of an audience. Layout-wise, I think the layout's okay. There's definitely way worse layouts for 40%. I think pretty controversially, they had the caps lock there. Equinox is not in this episode, unfortunately. It'll be in a future episode. I think when you have a 40%, choosing what keys you have is crucial for that top layer, right? And I think typically for 40%, putting caps on the top row is actually a waste. Like, they should put control there, and for the control down here, made it like an FN or something, right? I think it's actually a waste having a caps here, and I think that brings it down. It's not cool. The Vortex Core is not cool. It's mad. But here's the question. It's June 10th, 2021. Would you rather have a Planck or Vortex Core? Which one do you think is cooler? Are either of them cool? I think that's like the best comparison, right? Max, you'd rather have the Vortex Core. Interesting. Minivan is cooler than the Vortex Core. Those are some fighting words, Ash. I think we're all in agreement. The Vortex Core, it isn't cool. I'm sorry. We're not gonna go to a meetup and say, "Ooh, nice Vortex Core, bud." You're gonna be like, "Oh, is that the first 40% you tried out?" to see if you'd like 40%? That's more the line someone would ask if they saw a Vortex Core at a meetup, right? As opposed to saying like, nice Vortex Core. That's not happening. No one says nice Vortex Core like that. Just people who do it sarcastically in a show about rating how cool boards are. Yeah, Vortex Core. I don't know if it's cooler than the Planck, to be perfectly honest. Max, why do you think it's cooler? You'd rather be a person who has a Vortex Core than a person with a Minivan, but Planck might actually be a bit better now that you think about it. Yeah, I'm definitely curious why you might think the Planck versus the Vortex Core, what you would choose. Personally, for me, I would choose the Planck. I think the Planck is more usable because it's programmable. At least I'm coming from my position where I don't mind building a board and, fussing with it. I personally would put the Planck higher than the Vortex Core. Because the Vortex Core is not programmable, so I think one of the biggest issues that makes it uncool is if you don't like that layout, you shouldn't buy it. But if you somehow accidentally bought it and found out you didn't like that layout, you can't change anything about it, really, unless you get the aftermarket PCB, you desolder, you resolder switches in, rebuild. But at that point, if you're going to do all that work, just get something that you can program to begin with. And under that logic is why I'm thinking, like, that's a lot of work, and that's not really cool. It's not like glamorous work. That's not glamorous at all, right? Because that defeats the point of buying like a pre-built, like a Vortex Core. And for me, that brings a Vortex Core, like, I think it's cool that, like Vortex as a manufacturer decided, you know what? Let's try to chase this 40% trend. Obviously, they basically failed at their attempt of chasing it, in my opinion. But they tried, and I think that's something. I don't know if that's enough, but it's something. So I'm gonna give it the lowest. I think it should be the lowest of the meh. I don't know if it goes yikes. If someone wants to argue why it should be yikes, please do, because I don't see why it should fall down to yikes. Because I think the Vortex Core is fine, bottom of yikes, right? Yeah, you don't think it's a yikes either. Yeah, I definitely don't think it's a yikes. I think it's just gonna be low meh. It's a fine keyboard. It doesn't matter if it's a fine keyboard. Is it a cool keyboard? Because here it's all about the rule of cool, and I don't think it's cool. I don't think it's cool. I think it's the most meh keyboard that's imaginable. It's not repulsing. That's why it's not yikes. It's the fact that it's not repulsing saves it from being yikes. Okay, I'll take that. Screw it. Okay. Dewey, high meh because it brought 40s to the mainstream OEM. Did it really bring it to the mainstream? I don't think so. Because Vortex, I won't even say Vortex is very mainstream anymore, or even when it released, to be perfectly honest. I think it's really hard to really give it credit for that. I think the Planck is more mainstream than the Vortex Core. Like, I'm pretty confident it is. Like, if that was his objective, to be the mainstream OEM 40, it failed at that. Because the Planck is more mainstream. The Planck's on freaking Drop and on other places, and there's just literally thousands of Plancks in the world. And there's probably more Plancks than Vortexes. Maybe not. But whoever buys Vortexes, I've never heard of those people. I'll leave it lowest meh for now. We may need to change it better. Dewey, you say 40's bad? Yeah, you're not gonna like this episode, Dewey. The next item we're gonna go through. Let's change it up. Let's talk about the Atreus. Atreus is a 40, but it has little like ergo splits. So this one pictured is the Atreus Easy by the same people who did the Ergodox Easy. No, it's by Keyboardio. Sorry, this one's by Keyboardio. I was thinking about the Planck Easy. No, this is the Atreus. This one exactly is done by the people who did the Keyboardio Model 1. but originally it was by another guy. He licensed design to them. How cool is Atreus? I think in terms of, it was like one of the first, or one of the earliest ergo-ish 40%, a long while back in 2016, 17, if I remember correctly. You don't really see them too often anymore. How cool is Atreus? Is it still, is it cool? Is it not cool? It uses all 1U, so you never have to worry about keycaps, right? Like you can always find keycaps for it. And then, yeah, it has the columnar stagger, right? Is it cool? I think it's okay. I think it's either high meh or very low cool. I don't. For a lot of these boards, you'd be happy to see this at a meetup. I would too. Actually, I have one of these I'm working on a review for. You think the JP people like them quite a bit? I probably. This is definitely something I think the Japanese audience would like a lot. Yeah, I actually, you know what, Gok? I'm kind of with you. If I saw this with, like, if it was done crazy with, like, you know, like SA keycaps, right? To really contrast how slim and small it is with those, like, you know, some chunk SA keycaps, I think that'd be, like, pretty adorable and, like, pretty low cool. I can kind of feel you with that in, like, that kind of situation, yeah. What do you guys think? If you guys saw the Atreus at a meetup, whether it's plain, you know, plain Jane like this, or if they, you know, had like back people in 2018 would do like, you know, the vomits caps, like every 40% in 2018 was just a vomit of like, let's buy a grab bag and put them on a keyboard. Yeah, everyone remembers those times, right? Right? So Max, you can make this board very cool, so thus it's in cool. I like that logic. Yeah. Okay. Let's look. So if we look at the lowest of the cool, right? The uncoolest cool things we have is, where does it rank among Southpaw full sized, Duck Octagon, Tengu, Zephyr, E7 V1. So that's the lowest tier of the cool. Is it above this tier, or is it like within this tier? That's the real question. I don't know where it fits in this tier. I think maybe above the Southpaw full size, below the Duck Octagon, is personally where I think it would fit. You think below the Tengu? You think it's you think it would be cooler to see an Atreus than a Duck? Ooh, Gaku agree as well. Interesting. Would you be wrong to say that this board is unique? It's pretty unique. I mean, there's definitely them around, but I agree with like what Gok said earlier. You know, it's unique in the fact that it would be unique even seeing it at a meetup. Like even at the NorCal meetup, where I'm expecting over 400 to basically around 500 people total throughout the day, there wouldn't be many Atreuses. It'd be maybe like 2 maximum the whole entire meetup if we're lucky. So, okay, Gok, you agree with me. In between. And Max, you think, or no, Zerp thinks it's higher. Yeah, this is. I really think it should be between, like right here. I think it should be right here. Let's make room for it. All right. Anyone gonna fight me on this? On the Atreus being the second least cool of the cool category? I think this is where the Atreus needs to belong. I don't see why it should be any different than where it is here. Just below Tengu River Falls. It is below Tengu, but it's also below the Duck Octagon. So it's still below the Tengu. So that's semantically, it's where you want it. Okay, let's bring out one of the bigger guns. One of the bigger guns. Let's bring out the Prime E. Let's bring out the Prime E. Okay. The Prime E was done by whole tank. I think it cost like $320 when it released. It's released in 2019, April-ish. Is the Prime E cool? It's just like 40-ish% like Alice-ish thing. Is it cool? I think it's kind of cool. It's very adorable. At a meetup, I'd be like, oh, look at that little tiny mini Alice. It's a Prime E, right? I would just straight up just put it above the Atreus. Like, yeah, okay, everyone's like solidly cool. It's not like, oh, it could be cool, so it is cool, right? Like the Atreus. Everyone just says, no, this is cool. So cooler than Tengu. So maybe oh, cooler than Tengu. Interesting. You prefer the case that Sneakbox did, Prime E? Well, here's the thing, Ash. I just brought up the Prime E, right? You can also talk about any Prime E. I just brought up this one because this picture looks nice. I just grab random pictures most of the time, I'll be honest. But I mean, even like, you know, the fact that it can cases support with it, that, you know, that you can get 3D printed or layered, that could be a point that you could argue that makes it cool. And for some people, yeah. This was the original. That's why I pulled up this one. But the fact that, you know, it has compatibility and it has almost a mini ecosystem, not many boards have that. And if this board has developed an existing one, it doesn't have to be healthy because 2019 is 2 years ago, right? Even with Tengu, I don't know if it's even with Since it's Alice derived, do you think it's above Tengu because of its original layouts? You know what? I like that point, Gog. I like that point a lot. Let's see. Let's look very closely at this layout itself. Okay. Do you guys dislike anything about the layouts? I think the layout's fine because if I remember correctly, you can change the delete and backspace to be a 2U if you wanted to, I believe. What else could you do with the layout? I totally don't remember what else you could do with the layout. There's great compatibility options. What other things can you change? It has all the relevant keys. Dewey's correct. I mean, it's still missing the, well, this person just did their keycap choice. They're supposed to put the semicolon and then the quote, but they just skip semicolon and just put quote. Weird champ. You think bars might have some options? Interesting. Oh, yeah, space bars. Yeah, the bar areas. Yeah, you can have one U and something and bigger for both of them. Relevant enough? Okay, yeah, fair. Yeah, it's cool. Above Tengu, below Zephyr? I could live with that. I think this is a decent place for the Prime E. Anyone think it should be cooler or less cool? That's always what it comes down to, right? If you disagree with this placement and why. I think that's always a big and important thing. My compatibility option. Oh, you mean you can use normal keycap sets? Yeah, that is a big advantage because this is all mostly standard. That enter is only in 40s kits though, right? Like that's not a. Yeah, that's not normal enter. That's only found in 40 kits, but it's a 1.5 U enter. No. Sorry, it's a 2. Is it 2? Am I blind? I think I'm blind. Yeah, it's 1.75. Oh. For some reason, my eyes are playing tricks on me right now. Probably because I'm pretty sure it's 2. All these lights shining at me. Yeah, I think it's 2. But you can use controller caps for it. Yeah. Oh, it's 1.75? Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think it's fine. So, let's leave it there. I like it. Above the Tengu, below the Zephyr, fair. Fair enough. I think that's a fine place for the Prime E. It's probably one of my favorite 40%s, if I'm totally honest. I'm not a big 40% person, but if I got into 40%, this would be one I'd want to try to get one way or another, right? I think a stacked acrylic Prime E could look really, really cool and be really cool. Surprisingly, right? Stacked acrylic in 2021. One of my back in 2017 days. Is that just, man, am I a keyboard boomer? Because I think Stacked acrylic could look cool. Damn. The other one with the Alex, that was the one that Tokyo Coffee Nerd did, right? Right, Gawk? Yeah, that one was way too cool for today's lists. That's why I didn't have it either. It was way too cool. Like, it was like, Prime E is really cool. I'm just gonna have it as the cherry on top for today's list, but there's we got another good one on today's list. But let's go small. Let's go painfully layout, okay? Gherkin is the Gherkin. How cool is the Gherkin? Is it yikes? Let's just put it out there, everyone. Let's just put it out there. Is it yikes? Is it yikes? That's really all we need to get to. The only point we need to get to. Is it yikes? That's the question on the table. Is the Gherkin yikes? It has what, 30 keys? It doesn't even have all the alphanumerics because you look at it. An afternoon, you're generous, Gawk. I'd give it like 10 minutes at most. But yeah, it's definitely a giveaway at a meetup board. Here's the thing, right? Look at this picture. Someone actually built a Gherkin and went through putting in-switch LEDs for every single switch. Can you imagine? Foot pedal. It's soldering practice. That's why you'd give it away at a meetup. Okay, it's yikes. Okay, so here's the thing. What's less cool? The Gherkin or the Minivan? What's less cool? Because remember, this is the rule of cool. What is cooler? What is not cooler? Would you rather see a Minivan with light cycle, or would you rather see a Gherkin with like? Usually Gherkins would have like vomit keys on them, right? Just someone put a grab bag on it of random color, random signature plastics bullshit. Zerp, you said you'd rather see a Gherkin with keycap vomit on it over a Minivan and a light cycle. Interesting. Do you want to be a person with a Gherkin or a person with a Minivan? Oh, I would never. Oh man. Oh my goodness. What a hitting us hard with those questions, Max. You're hitting us hard. I felt that. I felt that. I don't know. I guess I'd rather be a Minivan is at least usable. So for now, let's put Gherkin very, very low. No, I'm gonna put it very low. Very low. Very low on yikes. I don't think anyone's gonna argue with this Gherkin placement. 30 keys. If I remember correctly, the Gherkin did come out during a time where making like impractically small boards was popular. I believe this near the same time there was what was it, the Bishop Pawn keyboard, and there's a few others where like it was basically like the Gherkin, but maybe like with like a little like spacebar row thing. You know what? Since we're talking about the Gherkin, let's just talk about the other super small boy, the smallest small boy. Whether or not it's a meme that has lived up. The Pain 27. Is the Pain 27 cool? It's just. It's not even all the alphas, because honestly, I still consider. I consider a key that you push down that inputs something that takes space an alpha. So in my opinion, this doesn't even have all the alphas. But the Frame 27, is it a nice, funny thing? Yes. Base Cats is cooler than their Gherkin. Yeah, I would actually say the Pain 27 is definitely cooler than their Gherkin. The fact that they kept the original stagger and key locations is actually hilarious and great about it, to be honest. I actually like that they kept the original stagger and key positions. Instead of, you know, like centering the space bar and, you know, making all the rows like in like some pyramid, right? No. They're like, no, let's keep it as it is. They did it right the first time. Let's just take away everything else around it. Okay, but is this a meh or a yikes? It's a unique take on minimalism. That's true. I honestly see the Pain 27 more as art than a usable keyboard. And I think it should be viewed more so as a piece of keyboard art than keyboard kit. Yeah? I don't know, maybe am I just like speaking bullshit? ATX, it's the one to display alphas that you're not using. Huh. Yeah, and Take Keyboard's case is pretty cool. You are cool to have a Pain 27, but no one expects you to use it, and you don't either. That's true. So, the board itself, it's not yikes. Is it meh, or is it actually slightly cool as a piece of art? Or is it kind of too memey as a piece of art, and it's only like art for the quirky people? Whether or not you think that's derogative is on you, but you probably know what I mean. Because that can be taken either way, right? Is it meh, or is it somewhere in the cool? High meh as arts. Because I do think the Pain 27 is more arts. If the CA66 is meh, it is also in meh. That's a bit... Okay. Where does it fall in the meh? Is it cooler than the CA66? Is it around these boards down here? Does it need to go lower? Like, where on the meh? We got to figure this out. Okay? How does a board viewed as arts, just the Pain 27 arts, versus some of these other meh items, who are maybe on the meh for various other reasons. Gawk lower. I agree, it should be lower than the CA66. Is it the same tier? Isn't like this upper tier of meh, but below CA66? Like, is it cooler than the QXP Modern M0110? That's of course cooler than the Planck, Canoe, and da-da-da. No, it's cooler than the Planck. I think hands down it's cooler, right? Like, no one's gonna be talking about yet another Planck at a meetup, but everyone's gonna be like, oh, did you see that Pain 27 that's just artisans? They put 27 artisans on it. Have you checked it out? It's so cool, right? People would say that at a meetup, right? People would buy a Pain 27 and just fill it up with literal thousands of dollars of artisans. Like, that's the thing you could definitely see at a meetup, right? And if you saw that, that would be a really cool art display for artisans. I'd argue it'd be cooler than those little boxes that people are making all the time, where it's like, I got this 5x5 box with a glass cover and a brass weight for my art. This would be cooler. This would be cooler. People do the same with planks, but I still think a Pain 27 filled with artisans is cooler than a plank filled with artisans. Because with a plank filled with artisans, you ultimately know it's a plank first and foremost than anything. Whereas the Pain 27, I think, is like just ubiquitous enough, or just, I mean, not ubiquitous, it's just low key enough where you're like, oh, that's a unique way to display artisans before thinking about it's a plank with artisans. That's my argument on why I think the Pain 27 is way cooler than the plank. Do people care enough about the CA66 nowadays? I mean, there's going to be another round coming up. Some people do, some people don't. I personally think the CA66 maybe should have been higher, but the chat at the time said, no, Huey, you're wrong. And I was wrong. So that's why. You put the spacebar artisans. I think you meant to do singular. You cannot put spacebar artisans, just artisan. But yeah. I'm gonna put it below the CA66. I think this is a fine place for it. If people want to fight me for that, so be it. Planck is pretty cool to artisans. Pain 27 is cool with artisans compared to Planck. That's what I think. That's what I think. That's what I think. Yeah. Let's see this photo. That's a pretty cool photo. It's a nice way to showcase rejected stock. You know what the crazy thing is about that picture though, Gok? Those are all rejected stock, but I bet you that artisan crafter, if they were like, you know, grubby money hands, could easily, like, instantly sell each of those artisans for $100 a pop. They were? Oh, okay. I thought this was a person who was like, no, they're rejected stock, as in I'm not gonna sell them because they don't meet my own quality control. Not rejected for the high price. Just then they're B stock, not rejected stock. That quote, I do not like that quote. Then that quote is misleading, or I've been misled by that quote at any rate. They are rejected stock. Okay, I thought you meant they were, as in they were sold, like my analogy. Okay, he kept her. Okay, if you had it for free, A plus lag, A plus lag. Cool. All right, we're trucking on. We're trucking on. Let's go with like the OG, the JD40, also known as the small fry. By JD Carp, rest in peace, JD Carp. JD Carp has been was a member of the keyboard community for a very, very long time. At near the beginning of when keyboards was like barely taking off in 2010, 11, 12, and the JD40 was basically one of like the first real small form factor boards, and you can definitely tell its age by just looking at the fact that, you know, Cherry MX Blues, 2 pieces of stainless steel, 2 just steel standoffs, right? Like, we didn't even get to the point where we were countersinking the screws for the top plate. We're just using, you know, the button head screws. And I think the JD40 also is this cool because of Wilbur? That'll be more true when we get to the when we get to the JD45. You gawk. But first we gotta start. We gotta start a bit younger. So, standoff sandwich construction definitely was a thing that a lot of people did back then, because it was a very cheap way to make a case. Because it's just 2 sheets of metal and some standoffs and screws. How cool is the JD40? If I saw one on a meetup, I would, in its steel sandwich form, I would think it's cool as a piece of history. But I'm a person who generally just likes the subject of history. So that's my take on it. I think the history and the person behind it make it cool. But I'm not sure if that justifies it for the rest of you. Is the JD40 cool? I mean, it was kind of pricey when it ran, because back then things were different. It was like $200 for this. If you told someone this was $200 today, they would blow their lid today. As long as it isn't a carbon fiber skeleton sold at Micro Center. Yeah, big true. Oh my god. Oh gee. But I mean, like, this was expensive in its day. Like, legitimately, it was actually very expensive in its day. But it was very unique. And people appreciated it for that. I appreciated it for that. I never got one. I always considered it, but I was like, in college, I was like, no, I can't just get a small fry, get a JD40. I don't know if that's enough to bump it into cool. Meh? Is it like above Planck cool? Just above Planck? I think it's meh. Because honestly, as a board today, while I think it has some cool factors to it, it doesn't stand out as a board or even as a piece of art necessarily anymore. But even though it probably, in the big scheme of things, doesn't have as big of a noticeable impact on our community that compared to the Planck, I don't think we would really have the Planck without the JD40. Because the JD40 existed before the Planck was even an idea. So I think this is where I'm comfortable putting the JD40. I hope you guys are comfortable with the JD40 going here too, because I'm leaving it here. Alright. Let's just line up our last targets. Alright, here are the last keyboards we have. The last keyboards is the Magic Force or Keyson 49, JD45, Zlant, Timo 50, Alpha 28. Let's get the Magic Force 49 out of the way. It ran on drop. It was available at a few places. Magic Force does not make this board anymore, but it was their attempt at a 40%. You may know some interesting things like that fat escape key, Fat Boy Escape, 1.5U backspace, the enter key being 2.25. Whoa, right? They fit in the arrows and nav keys on the side. They, for some, on the bottom row, they went all the way out to the question mark. See, funny, Max, because I'm a left thumb user, left thumb spacebar user, so it's fine for me. The uniform stagger is interesting. Yeah, it's definitely very interesting. Yeah, this. You accidentally received a full 1 meter cubed box full of those kits. Wow, that's what a surprise. Yeah, the stagger is definitely something that I think threw a lot of people off, because it's a very non-standard stagger, right? Right, you got fat escape, fat tab, shifts. It's a 2U shift. That's why we got the weird stagger. Not having the proper stagger kind of bothers me. For if they want to have a staggered board like this, and for me that would take away from it. But like for a lot of people who are into this, I can understand why they appreciated like having arrow keys or even the nav keys on the side. It's not programmable, just like the Vortex Core. But is it cooler? I think it's cooler than the Vortex Core. The Vortex Core may have survived, and you can still buy one on like the Magic Force 49. But I think the Magic Force 49 is cooler. If I remember correctly, it was cheaper too. Of course, it's cheaper. It's a Magic Force. I think to me the layout makes more sense than the Vortex Core, right? Like, which of these two OEM non-programmable 40% would you rather have? I think in terms of keycap aesthetics, of course, the Vortex Core looks way better. But I think in terms of, like, actually using the board day to day, for me, Magic Force. Oh, everyone else is Vortex? Really? You guys all prefer the Vortex over the Magic Force. Interesting. I think I might be alone here. The Vortex didn't have when released. It has the dip switches, which only changes a few things, but it's not like fully programmable, if I remember correctly. Which of the today we have to crown a king of OEM 40%, right? Magic Force 49, Vortex Core. Is it gonna be the Vortex Core? Vortex is better caps because DISA. You kind of got a point there, Zerp. You kind of got a point. Magic Force doesn't look like... It's not a quality board. It's definitely not a quality. If you use a Magic Force 68, it's the same quality. You'd rather have standard stagger than arrows. Fair, fair. Vortex, you could make a case for its quality. Yeah, that's true. Okay, okay. I see where you guys are coming from. Okay. Should the magic force just be like in the meh below the core, or does it fall to the yikes somewhere? Here's the thing. If you got either of these two boards, I don't think you should expect to ever switch out the keycaps for either of these boards. I think it's unreal to expect to get keycaps for either of these, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it is impossible basically for the magic force because, you know, fat escape, right? High yikes. Really? High yikes? So why high yikes as opposed to Vortex Core being low meh? Is it just because it's less usable because of the stagger and the fat escape? Is that what it comes down to? Tragic Force also has 1.5 U backspace. Well, better than a 1.75 U backspace. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? What up, Terps? It looks revolting in your eyes. Meh layouts. Well, yeah, it looks like if the crowd really believes yikes, we thrown it in the yikes. I'm gonna put it above the minivan. I refuse to have the minivan cooler than it. I mean, it could be the minivan could be cooler, but I'm just gonna put it there. I'm just gonna put it above the minivan in both tier and height for now. I'm just gonna. That's how we're gonna live life. That's how we're gonna live life. All right. What do we got left? JD45, let's talk about it. This was one that was JD Carp and Wilba had a really big part of it. Had both an HHKB light-ish and full, you know, and either blocked or non-blocked corners. What do you guys think about the JD45? I think it's pretty nice too. Is the stiffest board you've typed on? Well, it's tightly packed, dense, and tray, if I remember correctly. So, it's like 10 standoffs. That's a lot of standoffs for a 40%. Holy moly! Or for a 45%. Because I mean, the layout is proper stagger, and the bottom row does go to question mark. The middle row actually goes out to colon, semicolon. Of course, you know, for all these kind of boards, brackets are always cut off. I think it's high meh. So here's a question. Is the JD45 cooler than the Pain 27? What is actually cooler? Which one is too cool for school? Yes, Zerp, you say it is cooler. Yes, okay, it looks like you got some yeses in chat. But not cooler than this. So you believe it should still be in meh, and it should go like this. With CA66, JD45, then Pain 27. Max, you also agree? Yeah, this is pretty easy, everyone. Wow, yeah, good job, Mystery Gang. We solved that case pretty quickly. All right, let's check out the next one. Mix Up Alpha 28. The Alpha 28 is what do you say about the Alpha 28? What do you actually say about the Alpha 28s? Yeah, Jeff, be glad you're late. This is actually Zerp's Alpha 28. And he posted. This is actually his. So Zerp, I have to ask you. Oh, what up, Pyro? Zerp, I have to ask you. Why did you only solder one of your RGBs on the bottom? Because your RGB is on one side, but not the other, and it's not even centered. Why isn't your LED centered? Come on, bruh. What happened there? Walk me through this, Zerp. Why didn't you center your LED? It's doing the Knight Rider. What is the Knight Rider thing? Like where I can wear waves through? If it scanning, then why didn't you upload a GIF, my dude? You uploaded a picture. You should have uploaded a GIF. I mean, I can't play GIFs on Illustrator, but still. Okay, well, I'm sorry, sir, but I don't think the Alpha 28 is that cool. How cool do you guys think the Alpha 28 is? Was it even good enough for you to use half-ass again? Fair. Jeff, you have an Alpha 28 from 2018 just sitting in a box unbuilt. Yeah, right? It's not cool. So, Jeff, is it yikes? Is it Magic Force 49 yikes? Is it Minivan yikes? Is it a fucking Gherkin level of yikes? Max, it is absolutely not yikes. Okay, Max, you gotta defend yourself, Max. Why is the Alpha 28 not yikes? You gotta defend yourself here, bud. Why? What up, Machine Yearning? Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a cool minute. Yeah, you've missed basically the whole 40 stream, my dude. Because you can make it look not revolting. Go to Pyro. What? It's usable and it's a decent platform for projects? I don't know, man. I think you just have a soft spot for it. What up, Shub? I think it's... You know people who daily it? That means you know people who have issues in their life. That is your case for not yikes. Okay. So my case for why it should be yikes is fucking look at it. I'm sorry, Zerp. I know this is your picture, but nah, dog. You think it's below the Vortex 40%? Really? But above? Okay. Here's the thing. Here's the thing, Zerp. What you say can mean it's either really high yikes or it's really low meh, right? Like you're saying two very intense things, right? There's a solid line. Thanks Terps, my dude, for that T1. Like saying something like there's a definitive line that marks if something is yikes or meh. You can't say like, oh, it could be. No, you gotta. It's a yikes or it's a meh. What else is in low meh? Okay, we got the Vortex Core, Honeyboard 60, KBD 67 V2 MK2, Canoe Gen 2, Planck, JD40, Modern M0110, QXP, Pain 27, JD45, CA66. How can you be like, yeah, like, I think it's high yikes then. Jeff, I think we gotta go with high yikes. What am I listening to? This sounds potentially racist, so I'm gonna switch songs. What up, Chaos? Well, oh my gosh. I should have a separate column for 40s. No, what? No, this is I cover keyboards. Okay, we've got 2 left for our 40s before we review what we've done today. Trips is Ryan. Okay, nice, it's Ryan. Okay, Zlant. Let's talk about the Zlant, everyone. The Zlant is just it's just a tilted board that tilts in one. It's just this all one use, just stagger. Oh, almost all one use, stagger throughout. We got some little bottom row larger keys. Look, the middle row, unlike all the other 40% other than the Planck, actually goes out to the apostrophe. It doesn't stop at semicolon, doesn't stop at L. It actually goes all the way out. And on the bottom below that, it goes all the way out to the question mark. Of course, you're going to cut the brackets, right? How cool is the Zlant? Is the Zlant cool? I think the Zlant has its uniqueness, right? Like, I think it had the same. The Zlant was the Keyblade before the Keyblade existed. Do you guys know what I mean? People were like, oh, the Keyblade, it's so unique and because it's like a keyboard sword, right? Like the Zlant is just the Keyblade before the Keyblade. That's how I see it. So in the future, if we do the Keyblade's going to be above the Zlant by default. You know what I'm saying? Keeping the stagger in an quote ortho unquote layout. Yeah, it's like a ortho stagger. Ortho, like, it's just everything tilted and uniform. It was the first big uniform stagger boards. This is less gimme than the Keyblade with the familiarity of stagger. Zlant was good for uniform stagger. I think it's a mass/cool. I don't know if it's cool. That's the thing. I don't know if it really breaks the cool threshold. Because it's 2021, and in 2021, would you rather have a Zlant or a Keyblade? I think I'd rather have a Keyblade because it's a fucking Keyblade. But I don't think I would have a Zlant in 2021. Not a fan of unicorn stagger has novelty. Zlant is sus. Okay, Rain Keeps, you can't just say it's sus and not extrapolate on this sus that you feel about the Zlant, okay? Okay, unload your feelings on this Zlant, no cap. Look, I used to use modern slang. I'm an adult. I literally learned what no cap was like 2 days ago. You'd rather have Zlant because it's usable compared to having a giant handle. You're also not a big uniform guy. Yeah, right. Zlant. Oh, that's cap. Yeah, that's cap. Oh, words are hard. Okay, but you feel like the Keyblade on your desk is not cool, but hung vertically. Because I look at the Keyblade the same way that we looked at the Pain 27 earlier, right? When we looked at the Pain 27 earlier, we're like, okay, this isn't obviously, it's not a functional keyboard. But in terms of a keyboard, the Pain is art, right? Imagine going to a meetup and you see it full of thousands of dollars of resin artisans on the Pain 27. That's what makes the Pain cool, where it's more of arts than keyboard. Like the Zlant, okay, the Zlant is literally, in my opinion, it's the Planck with attitude. That's what the Zlant is. The Zlant is just the Planck with attitude. It's literally an edgier Planck. Like, how can you argue that it's not just an edgier version of the Planck? It's like if the Planck had an emo phase, it would be the Zlant. That's all. Even with the Planck, no. This is the cool board. There are no ties on the cool board. You guys, we're gonna have to duke it out on which one you guys think is cooler. Okay, Planck or Zlant? Between the two, honestly, I think the Zlant is cooler between the two. Like, come on. Machine Yearning, you think the Planck is cooler? Ash, you too. Why do you guys think the Planck? It's like it's the Starbucks of 40%, right? It's getting a freaking mocha frappa bullshitino at Starbucks, right? It's like the basic, you got your Uggs and your North Face sweater of 40%. That's what the Planck is compared to the Zlant. That's what I think, at least. Which is basically, the Zlant is just that same Uggs and North Face, except they decided to go one step further and get like a tattoo of like an anchor on their foot or something, or maybe like a feather. Planck is more available, stagger bad. Zlant has more bottom row options. It does. The Planck has introduced, I mean, don't get me wrong, the Planck has definitely introduced more people to ortho boards. I just think in 2021 the Planck has not aged well. And that's what everyone else in chat has also agreed upon earlier today. And that's why it's kind of where it is. No, don't get me wrong. The Planck has brought a ton to the niche, right? To keyboards, especially to 40%, right? The 40% community wouldn't be where it is today without the Planck. And okay, here's the thing, Chaos. You're probably saying that because you haven't been in the community for a while. The Planck came out way before Mass Drop was a thing. Well, like a good amount before Mass Drop was a real thing. The Planck existed. Also, with the Planck, the first board. So yeah, we were talking about QMK and the Planck earlier, and I think the idea of QMK, or idea of having a user shared programmable language for keyboards, would have existed even without the Planck. I don't actually attribute the Planck too much to it, because I think at the time the keyboard community was already trending that direction, right? It just happened that Jack Humbert, one of the primary contributors, is also the same person behind the Planck, but he wasn't like the only main contributor, and there are other people, and it would have still manifested with or without the Planck. So I get more people think the Planck is cooler. So you guys think it should be like yeah, hold on. Let me just, we're gonna do more reorganization again. So you all think it should be like this. Sorry. Like this? Where the Planck is just that one little step above the Zlant? Is that what chat's telling me? I can't believe you guys think the Planck is cooler than the Zlant. Like, if you went to a meetup, would you not be more impressed to see Zlants than Plancks? Like, I think it should be the other way. I've actually been thinking a few minutes, still can't decide. That's fair. Chaos, you're biased because ortho. Fair. Right. What can you do with this Lance? I think you do more with it than the Planck. I think so too. It has more bottom row options. Like, honestly, I think it should be like this. Right? I think it should be like this. Zlant and then Planck. I don't know how you could look at that and be like, nah, dog, nah. Any closing arguments from the peanut gallery before we move on to our next board? Yeah, this is the cool board, right? This isn't the most worldwide hunger-curing impact. Close the book. All right. Our last board before we review what we've done for today. The TMO 50. How cool is the TMO 50? Is it wow? Is it cool? Meh? Or yikes? It's probably one of the most premium, like 45% ever. Interesting layout. Some love it, some hate it. But how cool is it? That's what we getting down with today. It's too wide and looks like a sussier back of ear. Really? You think it looks worse than the Zlant? Has apostrophes and slash keys. It goes out to the question mark. You're not a fan of unnecessary macro columns, but it brought a lot of people into 40s. Well, here's my question, Chaos. What makes it an unnecessary macro cluster? Because I feel like a macro cluster almost like epitomizes the ideals of 40%, to at least one of the ideals, which is like you want to be able to program things how you like, where you want, but still keep it small. I don't think like a small macro column like this really, I don't think one column makes it that much bigger. You believe all macro clusters and columns are necessary? Because, like, okay, the TMO50 is like, this is like, I have artisans and artisan friends flex board, right? You put like 4 super high-end artisans right there, and then maybe a few in the top row, right? And then just like, oh, you bring it to a meetup and you're like, look at my TMO50 full of artisans, baby. Full of thousands of dollars of resin, baby, or hundreds of dollars of resin. To be fair, Zerp, there weren't many TMO50s released at the time. I think it was like 50 raffle. I think it was including friends and fam. Okay, how cool? TMO50. Is it cool? Cool or meh? I don't think the Cannon Keys Round 2 shipped at that time, but by the LA 2019, actually. Low wow. I don't know if it goes low wow. I don't think... Under meh, solid, cool, low wow. Maybe I don't know if it goes into wow. I mean, wow, we got some big hitters, right? Modern Model F, the Juby, the Bauer, HPCP, HHKB Pro Classic, Thermal, Jane V2C, TGR Alice, and Gator Ron. I don't know if it goes low wow. TMO50 is a mid-range premium 45%, to be honest. It was pretty cool when it came out and inspired the successful budget clones Nightmare that Keyhive ran. Not exactly cutting edge nowadays though, and there are cooler premium 50%, mid to low cool. Mid-high cool above NK65 Trio. Interesting. So really, look, aside from like the outlier in cool and wow, I think most of you guys are kind of between meh and cool, huh? Oh, what's this? Lorem. What are you doing here, Lorem Ipsum? Alright, there. Solid, cool, not meh, not wow. Cool for sure. I think it's cool. I think it is cool. It was definitely, it has a lot of buzz. I remember when I covered it, some of you may remember, if you're among the older in the community, that I used to be a part of a show called Top Clack a long time ago. And I remember actually covering the TMO50 when I was on that show, and it was very highly buzzed about at that time. People were really down to clown with the TMO50 at that time. So, has it aged well? TMO50, I think TMO50 has aged well. I think if I saw it at a meetup tomorrow, not that I'm going to a meetup tomorrow because there's no meetup tomorrow, rip. I think it'd still be pretty cool. I think it would be. Man, I'm running out of space already. I would put it above the Prime E and below the Zephyr, to be perfectly honest. Unless you guys think it should be one tier cooler and be in like the middle tier under like the E8.5. Which that very well could be a pretty good place to put it, actually, now that I think about it. It could be in the mid tier of cool, right? There's like, there's 3 columns. It could be, cooler than all of these here and just be in the mid tier cool. I actually think that's a pretty good spot for it. I think how people view the TMO50 is still very something pretty good, especially for what it is. I think it generated the hype, and I think if you saw a TMO50 at a meetup, that high, you would still relive that hype possibly. You think it's below the Zephyr because there wasn't a meme GIF made of it. Yeah. Don't know if it's cooler than the Germ Mini. That's true. The Germ Mini is Here, so if people who may be newer to the show, it's one of those things where typically every 4 to 5 episodes, we'll do a review episode where I don't bring anything new, but anyone in chat or if I have a guest is allowed to challenge where something is for a review to see if it should move around. Actually, the point it's hard. I don't think anyone actually hates the TMO aside from what's his name. I think it was someone not liking macro columns. Aside from that, it's pretty hard to hate the TMO. But I think it's done well for the community. If you saw it at a meetup, for most people, it kind of rebuild that little bit of hype and like little tingles. You feel like, ooh, that's a TMO 50, nice. Gets it. Can I real quick? And they'll be like, yeah. And you're like, oh, nice, cool. Oh yeah, what lube cherry MX blacks did you put in this? Because it released during the time where all everyone built with is lube cherry MX blacks. You think the macro column actually brings a bit of balance? They tell you what layer you're on. Yeah. No, I ran out of music. Let's switch lists to... Ooh, I know what we're switching to. I know what we're switching to. Hold on. Mood. Dramatic. Okay. So, for those of you who are maybe joining a bit late, here are the items that we covered today. Today, we have covered, of course, the TMO50. We have covered the Prime E Atreus. These are the boards of today that made it into the cool area. Next, in Meh, we covered the JD45, Pain 27, JD40, Zlant, Planck, Vortex Core, which all made it in Meh. And for Yikes, what we covered today was the Alpha 28, the Magic Force 49, the Minivan, and the Gherkin. Those are the different things we covered today and where they ended up. Hey, for you guys who think that Minivan should be higher, all I can say was you should have showed up earlier to state your case. It was a pretty tight case on why it should be Yikes. Almost overwhelmingly in chat at that time. It's overwhelmingly part of the board's identity among non-40% users. Yeah, the reason Minivan is Yikes is how vocal and toxic people are about it. Yeah, if you guys are there when we do the challenge episode, I want to hear your arguments. Why you think it should be higher or lower for any board on the cool board. This is, like I said, this is a newer season, so we don't have that many things on the cool board yet compared to the old cool board. But can you send me an essay? Save your arguments for when we do the reviewer episode. But no, there's gonna be a lot more. I'm doing cool boards every Thursday at around 7:30 p.m. Pacific. For anyone who's interested in tuning in, I'm gonna do my little YouTube outro. Thanks everyone who's on YouTube, by the way, for watching the cool board for today. Every Thursday at 7:30 Pacific, roughly. Yeah, catch me on YouTube and Twitch, twitch.tv/manofinterest. If you're watching it on YouTube, hopefully I can catch you on Twitch next time so you can argue why I'm wrong and you're right, or I can just tell you why I'm right, because, you know. Thank you everyone who's watching on YouTube. Hope I can catch you guys on Twitch or the next VOD. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks everyone on YouTube. Have a wonderful night.